welcome to This May Hurt a Bit. My name is James Strayer, and this is
John C. Myers.
And we're a horror franchise podcast discussing each film in popular and not so popular horror franchises. And today we are talking about Wishmaster from 1997. But most importantly, we have a special guest with us today. He is the co-founder of the Flophouse podcast, owner of several bars in New York City, including Hinterlands, and the man who, in December of 2001, I saw Fellowship of the Ring with not once, but twice in one day because we couldn't decide what showing to go to. So we went twice and spent 6 hours together watching Fellowship. The one and only Stuart Wellington. Welcome to the show, Stuart.
Hey, thanks so much. Yeah, I'm glad you brought up that we are blood brothers.
Exactly.
We went through the fires of Mount Doom together. And I think you said 6 hours, but you left out the hour in between where we went to Vazzoli's and ate so many breadsticks.
Yep, exactly. And ran to the convenience store for 4 packs of Guinness to drink during the
sneak in there.
Yep. Before pub theaters. So when I mentioned to you that I was one of the few people starting up a movie podcast done by middle-aged men, I told you that I would want you to come on eventually, and you said, call me when you get to Wishmaster. So What is it about? What is it about this one that you were just like, I'm waiting until Wishmaster?
I think when I told you that, it had been a while since I'd seen any of these movies, but I remember I think I found the Wishmaster franchise, at kind of late. I feel like all 4 had already come out, and I was living in the middle of nowhere in Pennsylvania, and my one lifeline to the rest of the world was there wasn't even that much internet then. Was going to Blockbuster and renting movies. And I burned through all the Wishmaster movies, and I remember really enjoying them and looking forward to them. So I was like, you know what? I have a lot of affection for Wishmaster. Let's call me when you get to Wishmaster. And you know what? Honestly, I'm fucking glad you did, because watching this one again, it's a fucking banger.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. Had you seen this one before, John?
Yeah, I watched it I think a couple years ago. As part of a I think probably during my big Halloween watchings.
Sure.
And I enjoyed it, but this time around I fell in love with it more. I think knowing a little bit more about some of the people involved and stuff added to that. But it's also just fun. It's a fun watch. It doesn't really pretend to be anything more than it is. It's just fun.
And I'm sure we'll get into it, but it feels a lot like a style of horror movie that they don't really make very much anymore, or at least I don't run into very often, which is just a big, silly creature feature with a ton of makeup effects.
Yeah.
And of course, some of the worst computer effects I've ever seen in my life.
Of course.
But that's part of the game. And of course, it is a parade of horror icons.
Yes. Yeah. At the top being Robert Kurtzman. And that's why it is a full-on creature feature with nonstop effects, balls to the wall type of stuff. But before we get into all the people that are in this, the thing that I was thinking about the most when I started this is a Wes Craven Presents. And this is in 97. And
Scream, the homie.
Yeah. See, Scream came out in 96. So he's kind of at the top of his power all over again. But what I thought was interesting with this is I feel like this movie came out kind of too late by about 8 years. Whereas if it came out in 1988 or something like that, people would have been more into it. Whereas after Scream, people wanted these slasher kind of redux type of films.
Well, these more kind of smart alecky things.
The the postmodern take.
Right. Yeah.
And I mean, no shade to Scream. I mean, he created a completely new genre.
And I like Scream. Yeah,
and
definitely.
That's a franchise without a miss. They're all bangers.
Absolutely.
And I use banger specifically because Courtney Cox's bangs in part 3 are the best thing in the world.
Yes, totally. Yeah, I was thinking about it in just the terms of some of these other franchises of that era. It's just by this time they're kind of petering out a little bit. Leprechaun had started in 92 and that's petering out. But then we got the rise of all the teen slashers in the early aughts and stuff. So I wonder if the poor Jin was overlooked more than he needed to be. Yeah.
But he got sequels. I feel like this movie kind of reminds me of Shocker in that, like, I feel like Shocker was meant to be like, oh, this is going to be the next big thing. There's going to be a million sequels. None, just the one.
It's just the one. No second one, right?
I don't think so. But it's also like, given the sort of the thesis statement that this makes about having like Kane Hodder and Robert Englund in it, and then the Wishmaster conquers them all. There's
and Tony Todd, aka
and Tony Todd. Yeah, that's
slash Final Destination.
Yeah, and the dude from, I mean, I guess he's less of an exciting guy because he's just a drunk who gets starts things off. But the guy from Day of the Dead, the captain that starts the whole thing, like there's just all these big names that he's like, Wishmaster, he's the new kid on the block. This ain't your daddy's Pinhead, but it just didn't go anywhere.
Angus Scrim reads the fucking narration at the beginning. Reggie Bannister is in it. Buck Flowers. Vern Troyer plays Like, Lil Wishmaster. Bonkers. Ted Raimi's in it. Yep.
Manfredi did the music.
I'm sure they called in a bunch of favors, but I bet Reggie was just excited to be like, wait a minute, yellow goo comes out of my mouth? Yes. Yeah. I'm in.
Right. Instead of into. Yeah. So this is I don't know how you couldn't like this movie, frankly, but just in terms of like horror history, this has everybody piled into it. So it's worth a watch just for that. So yeah, just starting off, we're starting in the year like 1182 AD or something to that effect in Persia. Perfect. So right off the bat, we're like, oh, there's a budget behind this movie, I think. We're quickly treated to like 6 or 7 death scenes right in a row that are just like the special effects guys going nuts. And I'm willing to bet that most of the people in those shots are just K&B, like special effects artists who are hanging out in the shop, you know?
Yeah. I mean, we get that opening narration that explains, like how the Jinn were created and that they're super scary. Basically, they're like devils or demons or whatever.
Yeah.
Not to diminish the Jinn, but the and then we go right into one of these like the easiest way for me to describe it is like a festival of horrors sequences. Where it's like bang, like crazy thing. Like obviously no one does it better than Peter Jackson in Brain Dead / Dead Alive, but I mean, this movie has 2 of those sequences. It's amazing.
Yeah. Do you two have a favorite of this opening bit? Mine's got to be the skeleton just worming its way out of skin.
That skeleton is bonkers. That's great. And then he's immediately up to no good grabbing somebody.
Yeah. I mean, the bonus eruptus guy was fantastic. But I also have a special spot for the nonchalant snake man.
Yeah.
He looks down and there's this guy who's been transferred to a snake. And he's like, hey, would you help us? Like, there's not, because that would think, it's a K&B guy. He's not really a great actor, but he's just like, give us a hand here. But the skeleton guy, so great.
That's the kind of thing. And it really highlights that as soon as that skeleton gets out of that body, he starts grabbing people. And it's like, you know what? Skeletons, they have fun. Like, look at any blacklight poster. They're going to be surfing. They're going to be skateboarding, playing a guitar, whatever, crushing brews.
Who needs muscles?
Yeah. You want to hang out with them. So we follow through. Our one through line, our eyes on the ground here is a wizard, which I'm already kind of sold. He approaches the king of the realm, obviously, and there's a djinn sitting next to him, and he's really giving him the whole worm tongue treatment, just sort of like trying to take over the realm. And our wizard manages to use a gemstone that sucks the djinn into and imprisons him into the gemstone.
And I think really importantly, one of the biggest rule right up front, we established the big rule of the djinn is that whoever awakens the djinn will, if they are given the power to make wishes, and if they make 3 wishes, the djinn becomes super powerful and unleashes hell on earth, I guess.
Yeah. That's all it takes.
Seems dumb, but let's see how the movie goes.
Right.
Yeah, he brings his buddies along if you like, because I think those are the people in the walls, which they kind of undersold the Shah or whoever had like a line of skeletons leading up to his throne.
Yes.
And I kind of like, that was so cool, but they're like, there's so much other cool stuff going on. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about the 10 skeletons on either side.
He's trying to bring his buddies just like Jeffrey Jones and Howard the Duck. It's very simple.
Right. He's a big fan. We cut to America present day. So today, I'm assuming 2023. And, Robert Englund, sans Freddy makeup, just pure Robert Englund, standing there on the docks waiting for a parcel. It's a shipment of a statue of an ancient god, and a drunken dock worker in a Looney Tunes style just sort of like drops the parcel onto Ted Rami, who always looks like he needs to have something dropped on top of him, frankly. I like that guy, but he's got the face for that.
Luckily, this drunken stevedore is union, so he did not lose his job.
Right. Immediately, we cut to a gem store owner is walking into an auction house to get this red stone appraised because evidently someone just like stole it from the dock. We're then introduced to Josh and Alex, our two main characters, this guy, Josh is just trying to negotiate a date out of poor Alex here.
And this is the cut that we're introduced to them playing tennis, right?
Yeah.
That's correct.
With a Tony Hawk Pro Skater soundtrack going, which is pretty great.
Now, I was watching this. I don't know about you guys. I was watching this on Tubi, and when it cut to this scene, I'm like, "Is this a fucking commercial?"
Yeah, seriously, right? I don't associate tennis with my horror flicks, really.
Or like a hard rockin' soundtrack to tennis. No offense, tennis fans.
Right. I mean nothing but offense.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's trying to get this date out of her, and like the first time he goes for it, I'm like, oh, okay, I can. We've all been there. I'm like, okay, he's being kind of a sweetheart. Immediately tanks any goodwill I had for just like pestering her about having a date, and then gets to
casting a spell on you here, Alex. Maybe it'll work.
Which always goes over well,
right? And that spell is putting his sweaty hat on her head. Yeah, that's going to work, man. Good job.
Yeah, that works, dude. Yeah.
It's a callback, though, later on.
That's true. Whatever. That's true.
So Alex is the gem expert, the appraiser, and she decides that it is a fire opal. And she says it's pretty unique. Now, this is important. She blows on it to polish it and starts hearing voices around the lab. That's all it takes to wake up a djinn.
Yeah, I think she rubs it on her shirt. It's like rubbing a genie's lamp, right?
A lamp, yeah. So that's all it takes. So don't ever do this when you're out and about looking at gemstones.
Stop breathing on gems.
Don't go to the local rock store and start rubbing them on your shirt.
When you go to the mall and you pop into the rock store to get some crystals to cleanse your apartment.
Yeah. She decides she needs to take it to a friend of hers to run some tests, and lo and behold, Josh is her scientist friend who leaves it for him.
He has a really great line here where she, she's explaining that she wants this thing researched. She thinks there's something up with it. And he's like,
I don't know. I'm no gemologist.
But you are a scientist. You would know there isn't a word gemologist.
Right. And isn't she the gemologist?
Basically,
of the two?
Right.
Right.
Well, maybe that's like his next step is he's negging now from the pickup guys.
Yeah.
He's
there
like,
I guess
he being nice didn't work.
Donate the game, I guess. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, he becomes, he does his laser scientist stuff. Frankly, he just starts like in that like late 90s sort of way, like lasers mean anything that you want them to mean. And so he puts it into a machine. It causes the machine to blow up.
Yes. It was a laser wish.
And it fills the entire lab with like dry ice smoke along the ground.
Totally. Always works. And immediately I'm just like, so what's his excuse going to be to his manager? Like, is he just
that's your first, not his well-being, but how are you going to explain this, Josh?
How is he going to cover this up?
Man, that's the problem. That's the thing about capitalism,
How
man.
do you pass the buck?
We're all in debt to the bosses, right?
Yeah.
So, and interestingly, when this happens, it causes some kind of a weird connection with what's
Alex.
her name? Alex? Is that so she's busy teaching her basketball. She's a coach for a young woman's basketball team, and she senses that there's something going on.
It's never clear what that connection is.
Because there's a connection because she blew on
is she
gems.
Witnessing the murders or like the deaths? Is she like just feeling the bad vibes? But whenever something goes down, she is attuned to it.
Yeah, is she Frank Black from Millennium, Lance Henriksen powers, like seeing the murders through their eyes style? Like it's never completely clear.
Possibly.
But yeah, she is now connected with the djinn throughout the rest.
And speaking of murders, rolling around on the ground after that gem exploded is a tiny little gin monster that looks a lot like a Stan from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, if you ask me.
But who is actually Vern Troyer.
Yeah, it's Vern Troyer as the gin, and he offers, this is the first of many times that we see this, but he offers the guy, Josh, who's like grievously injured. He's like, I could take the pain away, and he's like, please do, and he's like, haha, and he just kills him, which we're going to talk. This happens so many times, but like, I feel like the rules for this fucking shit is super loose, because at one point he's like fucking with a dead body, and a guy freaks out and he's like, do you wish you didn't see this? And the guy's like, right. And he's like, that counts. It fucking counts, dude. And rips his eyeballs out. And it's like, Jesus fucking Christ, dude. Yeah. This is so loose.
Well, I also think that the djinn might just be bad at his job. Because I think if you are a djinn and you're like, well, I want to get my homies here, I'll grant you some wishes. You could just have those wishes be good and people would do it. But he can't get out of his own way of hating everybody. So he's like, I will absolutely make the pain go away by murdering you or stealing your eyeballs or whatever. So, thank goodness this guy's an incompetent prick.
Right. But yeah, the first wish makes him stand tall, and he gets like mainly most of his djinn powers. And that's another thing. Like throughout the movie, he has to like basically power himself up before he can really go to Alex and extract her 3 wishes. So how he's collecting this power doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's like the opposite of Dragon Ball. He's got to collect all the wishes.
He also has to track her down like Terminator style. Like he has to go find her address in the yellow pages.
The gemstone has split into 4 pieces at this point, right?
Uh-huh. But then he like mushes them back together, right?
Yeah, so he holds them out in 4 pieces, and I'm like, oh my god, is this the 4 MacGuffins of the D&D campaign that we're gonna have to track down to put the djinn back in?
Yeah, the shattered stone of Azur or something.
The shattered fire opal of Andrew Devoff.
Right. So Alex finds that Josh is dead in a body bag when she rushes to his lab, and the detective played by Rico Ross, who is Frost from Aliens.
Oh, no kidding.
Always picking up on the Aliens people. Asked what he was working on, and it's the opal. And I was just like, so is she on the hook for this too? Like, she brought the opal into the lab. Luckily, she doesn't get saddled with that.
Yeah, opal side wasn't a thing yet.
we cut to a definite highlight for me. Reggie Bannister answers the door of a pharmacy, and I feel like this is not the 3rd in a row, but when he was in the Silent Night, Deadly Night movies.
Yes.
And what do we do before that? Final Destination.
Yeah,
so I guess he hasn't been in everything, but he's been in a lot, which always makes me pretty happy.
Always a pleasant surprise to see Reggie Bannister.
He's great. I'm a fanister.
Whenever we go into these new films that I haven't seen in a while or whatever, I make sure not to look at the IMDb page because I want to have surprises like Reggie Bannister popping up.
Oh, yeah, that's cool. That's smart.
I got pretty stoked. Cool. He just starts yelling at a poor houseless person who just wants to come inside and follow somebody for some money.
Yeah, his character's not likable.
Not in the least. And he rarely plays likable people except for Reggie in Phantasm, Starts yelling and cursing at Reggie, and the guy just kind of walks down the street chasing after him after a while, and they run into the djinn, who goads him into revenge that he'd like to cast on Reg, which is pretty rough, really.
Like, while this effect was neat, it's unfortunate that, like, all his insults are very descriptive and vile and complicated, and then when the djinn is like,
what would you have happen? Give it some thought. Enjoy it. Hey, should only get cancer.
I mean, not for nothing, cancer's bad, but just like, man, you were on a roll there. Why'd you back off?
Yeah, you could have been something special. This is also great because this is where the djinn is. He's got like a little cloak on. At one point, he starts smoking a cigarette, and I'm like, wow, they don't smoke in movies as much. And like everybody's smoking in this fucking movie.
Everyone's smoking.
Even the heroine is smoking in this movie.
Yeah, smoking is cool. That's the stance of this podcast, and everyone on it. Everyone should do it right away.
Right? Yep.
Yeah, I mean, fucking Obama, right?
Yeah, it makes everybody look cooler. But no, this did remind me of like Batman and Robin from 97 when Bane is wearing his like hat and his like high collared like noir type of stuff. I love it when a monster tries to blend in like this. And he's got his little hood up.
Like the Ninja Turtles. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. The Ninja Turtles show up and you're like, are those perverts? Oh, no, they're turtles in trench coats.
Who have ninja powers. I do love his dialogue in here. And a lot of it is so Pinhead reminiscent. It did make me look up who the writer of this was. And it is a guy by the name of Peter Atkins, who did write Hellraiser Part 2 and Part 3. So you got all those very...
One of those is great.
Yeah. And we will get to it.
Yeah. It's the oopy goopy one. Also, like, I gotta say, I do love the Jin voice. It's very gravelly. And I'm assuming Andrew Divoff's voice there's got to be some kind of modulation in there, right?
Oh, yeah.
Some technical wizardry.
Right.
And
totally.
I guess we'll get to it, but like shortly after this point, the Jin goes to a morgue and finds a dead body so he doesn't look like a weirdo creep. Yeah. I mean, he still looks like a creep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he adopts the guise of the actor, Andrew Divoff, who looks he looks a lot like the actor Chris Mulkey, or like what's another kind of rough faced looking fella, like kind of like a David Boreanaz after a Bender type thing.
Yeah.
He looks like he is giving me 100% like charmed villain energy.
Yes,
right?
yes, absolutely. Yeah, and all the women fall for him too,
just like in Charmed. Charmed is a show where the only suitable dating pairs are witches and either cops or demons, which honestly very similar things.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, like this guy, his charm is very much like under a layer of skis, but you just can't see it. Like you just are immediately try. Like this is how crypto starts. Is this guy?
Yeah.
And he's perfect in it. Like for that, he's so great.
Yeah, he's good.
I'm impressed too because he's really good just as the human face guy, but then he also got to act under 20 pounds of makeup too, and he was still pretty charming that way as well.
No, I mean there's a reason why the Wishmaster series went on, and he's a big part of it.
I think so.
He's a very charming villain.
Yeah.
We cut to our lady Alex is sitting with her sister, and they're processing something that happened a long time ago about trying to get their parents out of a burning house. And she feels a lot of guilt that she was not able to get her parents out of the house. And so her sister is like trying to assuage her guilt and saying it's okay and all that kind of stuff. She has a nightmare where she sees the genie on a tennis court, which is pretty funny. But then she wakes up out of that nightmare. Now, I don't want to pile on to her grief or anything, but she does wake up screaming, racked with guilt about the fact that she couldn't get her parents out of a burning house. And what's at the foot of her bed? 8 lit candles that she fell asleep.
Learned nothing.
And I'm just like, come on, it looked good for the shot, but I'm going to pull back a little sympathy here if you're still going to sleep with lit candles.
And that's probably what started the fire that killed her parents, right?
I'm going to assume so.
I mean, so in a way, are you saying that Wishmaster is all about processing trauma? So I guess it is like an A24 movie, right?
Yeah, it's just like every new horror movie. It's about trauma.
We'll think of it this way. Okay, so let's say she's 30. That is thousands of days without a fire. One time it happens, you're going to start lighting candles at the foot of your bed.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. You got to use that argument with Casey Affleck from Manchester by the Sea, right? It just happened once, bro.
Yeah, exactly. I know how I'm going to fall asleep tonight. The typical candles at the foot of my bed. Yes.
While watching Manchester by the Sea.
Right. Yeah. The Jin is in the morgue where he sees a couple of younger interns. And I really did like this effect because he does say,
"Am I to understand this is not something you wish to see?"
Kid says yes, and immediately his eyes sew up, which is pretty perfect. I did love that.
Like, okay, man, I guess that counts.
Yeah, that counts as a wish. But this is where we see the first time where he cuts the faces off of people, applies it to his own, and he can become what they look like.
Because for the most part, his powers are kind of limited to only fulfilling wishes in the most shitty way possible.
Yeah.
Except for he can use magic to make himself look like someone else.
Sure. Yeah.
I think that's it, though. Can he do anything else?
I can't think of anything else, but yeah.
I mean, once the wishing happens, he can kind of do whatever. Because like for the two big party death scenes, basically the wish is like, I just want to see what happens, and then
I want to see some fucked up shit, dog.
Exactly.
That's basically what the guy at the beginning tells him. Like, I want to see some wonders. And he's like, okay.
Carte blanche.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, pull out my DVD collection.
Alex goes to the dock and wants to talk to the guy who picked up the opal. And of course, he just sexually harasses her and admits that he grabbed it from the crash crate. And then she ends up going to see Robert Englund or whatever the guy's name is.
I'm going to say Beaumont.
Beaumont is correct.
That sounds right.
Yep.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yep.
Yeah, but it's, with Robert Englund, it's just going to be hard not to just say Robert Englund.
It's Freddie.
Yeah,
It's
Freddie.
crate.
Yeah, it's Freddie's
Guy from
crate.
V's crate.
Right. I'm always a sucker for the scene in which you get the world building and you've got like a scholar walking around some ancient artifacts, and so he just basically says that he's a collector of old religious artifacts, and that's what he was trying to bring over. And we do see a brief shot of Pazuzu from The Exorcist, the classic
cool.
stone statue at the very beginning, which is fun.
Another horror icon.
Yep.
And this is all in his special room that he calls like the Chamber of Forgotten Gods.
The
And I'm
Room
like,
of
that's
Lost
sick.
Gods. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man, that's what I'm calling my man cave.
Right. So yeah, that's where we get our first kind of like lore dump type of thing from Freddie himself. And this is where he also invites her and her sister kind of inexplicably, right, to a party that we'll see at the end of the film. I don't know why he knows.
He said charming sisters, so it probably means that he's hoping to, hit it.
Yeah.
Yeah, got a sister. I just wrote grumpy lady in my notes. I forgot to look up her name, but there's a scholar.
Well, the interesting thing is the scholar's name is something Derleth, Professor Derleth, like August Derleth, writer of mythos fiction.
Yeah.
Okay. See, I should have remembered instead of grumpy lady.
Yeah. Well, Jenny O'Hara is the actress.
So we move on from there to this is the Jin buying a suit in his hot new like skin face camouflage that he's got going on, and he's just charming the retail worker behind the counter, making as you do charming wise, you make money appear in her cleavage, and she is just like wrapped around your finger, right?
What's wild about that is that it like wouldn't she just assume that's her money? Like
right.
It's not like.
Exactly.
If I was ringing up a sale and I'm like cash or credit, he's like cash, and then I find money on my person, the cashier, I would be like, what?
Yeah.
Well, this is also a person that is surprised that a person looks good in a suit. They work at a suit store, but they're like, oh my gosh, this stuff actually works. Like, this looks good.
Yeah.
So.
Right. Although backing up 5 minutes, I guess this is another one of his powers, because making money appear in her cleavage was not related to a wish, was it?
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
So maybe he can just like put money on people's persons.
Maybe. So this was 97. So maybe when he came into the store, he was wearing like a pair of Jenkos and a Big Johnson shirt. So when he put on the suit, she's like, oh, wow, this guy's hot. Before I thought he was just a bad boy.
You'll never go wrong rubbing this lamp with a Big Johnson.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Big Johnson's Room of Lost Gods.
So he's immediately starts just like insulting her and saying like, you're beautiful, but your beauty will fade.
Does it bother you, knowing that your beauty will fade? That your looking glass will day by day tell you a long and unhappy story?
And the thing is, he says that and she's like, yeah, I guess that's life, man, whatever. And he's like, but what if it wasn't?
Yeah, exactly.
Would you like to be beautiful forever? And she's like, yeah, I guess. He's like, that counts.
Yeah. And she turns into a mannequin, which we can all agree on is the height of beauty. Like, I don't know. Like, I guess.
I mean, Mannequin 2 on the move. Yes. Height of beauty.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yes. Cutting back to the Alex talking to the professor some more, we get even more lore stuff. Jinn were created after angels and before mankind.
Basically, she's like catching up to the audience. Like we already know basically all this shit. So
thanks to Angus Scrimm.
It's kind of a wild choice to be like, we're going to spend screen time catching this character up when we're like, just get on. I want to see more weird shit.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to see more splendors.
I'm always interested in the whole like in the old writings and all that kind of old lore stuff, poring over books, that kind of thing. But you are right that it was not new information that was like, provided to us.
But I do like when she's talking to the professor, how the professor's like,
forget what our culture is made of the Jinn. Forget Barbara Eden. Forget Robin Williams.
Oh, now I get it. Now I know what genies are.
Yeah, I understand. I'm assuming you're really excited about that because that information is really helpful for you when you're writing your tabletop role playing game based on the Wishmaster franchise.
Yeah,
I mean, absolutely. Yeah. You should see my monster compendium. It's
cool.
It's crazy.
It cuts down on the amount of Elmer Fudd impressions I have to do. If I could just leave Robin Williams out of it, focus on the real story and the gameplay.
I mean, you think that's why his suit is blue?
Probably, yes.
There is something I was reading about how like because the Jinns were formed in a blue flame, and so like that's what his suit is supposed to represent. And I went, cool. And then I went on with my life.
But it's stored in your head. It's in your head forever.
It's there.
So the Jinn in his human form goes to see the detective, which I enjoy this little bit because they say the Jinn's human form is named Nathaniel, and he goes to see Detective Nathanson.
Interesting choice.
Yep. There's a lot of names out there. Who is looking into Josh's murder. Nathan Jinn asks for Alex's address, and the detective, just is like, I can't possibly do that.
It's like, that's wild, and who are you?
Exactly. Then out of nowhere, I really like this scene actually, because not just for the violence of it, but it just goes to show how callous the Jinn is. And he's just like, all I need is an address, dude, but I'm going to cost you like 8 lives in this cop place, this cop office, cop place, cop office, police station. Well, I'll go with police station. So he just says like, that guy always gets off no matter what. I really wish it wouldn't happen this time, or something to that effect.
I want him to be caught dead to rights or like red-handed with everybody as witnesses.
Of course, that could mean only one thing.
Honestly, what happens is that he is not really caught.
Right.
And also, if he had been caught, he could easily plead insanity.
Right. So he does reach for another cop's gun and just starts blowing away people at random.
Blasting,
The best part being where he literally grabs the jaw of another cop and tears it off of the guy's face.
Which fucking rocks.
Yeah,
like, that was incredible.
Yeah.
That is like S. Craig Zoller level of crazy, gross crap.
Right.
We're all in Precinct 99.
Rocks. Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, and then I love that the briefly Detective Nathanson is like, hey, you're stealing that lady's information, because the Jinn is too busy looking at her address and being like, ha, 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 Alex. Ha, ha, ha. So he's like, hey, stop doing that, dude. And then he's like, I'm going to make this guy come back to life and kill more people.
That made it like, I loved that so much. He was just doubling down on how he's just going to use these
cover
people.
My tracks.
Yeah. Perfect scene. Yeah. I mean, in horror movies like this, like the more gunplay there is, the less I kind of like it. I want more like, the visceral type special effects type of stuff.
Faces getting ripped off.
Yeah. Exactly. So when the jaw got ripped off, I was kind of like a little bit more back into it. Yes, we get another research phase from Alex, another research scene. The stone of fire, it must be charged with souls and all that kind of stuff. We get our kind of like our rule dump here, what has to happen for the movie, which I feel like we've already kind of been over. The sole limitation of the Jinn's power is that it must be used in the service of wishes. So, okay, except when
we haven't clearly,
right. Except when making money appear in the cleavage, We cut to Kane Hodder in a security uniform, and Jinn calls him a little man, which I'm sure is a running joke with Kane Hodder. When he's here at the Hollywood this Friday, should I call him that?
Yes, absolutely.
See if he gets it.
Probably not.
Yeah.
You should rush the stage is what you should do and call him that.
Yes, little man. Jim, the Jinn calls him a little man. He says, ask me for something. And he just says, I want you to leave. And I do kind of like how cool, calm, and collected Kane Hodder is being this entire time. I was getting excited and I was like, ooh, what kind of death are we going to get for Kane Hodder? Not so great. And I'll forgive some crappy CGI from the late 90s, but it's Kane Hodder, so I wanted something like a little bit more brutal since he's dealt that out, you know?
You don't think being turned into glass and then shattered is brutal enough?
Yeah. Not for this guy.
No, you're right.
Yeah, he turns him into glass.
Yeah, he like fuses him with the door. And I do like the way, like the goofball expression on his face. That's a lot of fun. But yeah, when he just sort of shatters into a bunch of CG glass pieces, it's a little underwhelming compared to what we've seen so far just in this movie.
Jin gets in to talk to Nick, the gem appraiser guy.
Yeah, Chris Lemon.
Wants Alex's address again.
Alex's boss, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Who is, I would imagine at this point, wondering where his employee has been.
Right. This was before texting to say, hey, I can't make it in today.
Yeah.
He goes the easy route with this guy because this guy's kind of a mark and just says, like, if you want, what do you want? Do you want that to be more valuable? And then he does the like George Bailey wish from, Wonderful Life. I wish I had $1 million because he's very easy to please.
Big bare naked ladies fan.
Yeah. Right. I really did like this wish fulfillment scene because it's so dumb.
It's absolutely stupid, but I was laughing so hard. I loved it.
Yeah, it's like this is where it's like you're seeing where the series could go if they took the like Final Destination route.
Right. Yeah.
Where they're like, how much fun can we have with the wish concept?
Which was
we see the mother of Nick buying flight insurance about to get on a plane. And she decides she's going to nominate her son Nick, who owns a gallery. She makes that very clear in case we, the viewer, are super stupid.
Right.
Which I am.
That he'll be the beneficiary of her life insurance policy. And she gets on a plane and it explodes.
Yep. Along with 260 other people?
I like how quickly it happens, though. She's like, yeah, my son. Oh, he owns a gallery. Sign, plane, take off, boom. Like, you know what's going to happen. Here's the payoff. It was wonderful.
Wishmaster works quickly.
Yeah.
Right. Although, but at the same time, how long does it take for her to get to the gate, to board, to buckle up, to take off? So him and Nick are just sitting there awkwardly in the office, just being like,
at each other.
So when does this pay out?
X in the mail. Yeah.
We see Alex at her basketball practice again and leaves another message for the professor. The whole time the Jinn is in the bleachers, asking somebody else for a cell phone. He's still trying to track her down. I do love this shot because he literally rubs his hands together menacingly in the background after Alex sees him.
It's good old villainy.
Top tier. I feel like F. Murray Abraham's like, ooh, perfect. That's the
with
right
that?
level of cheese.
Yes.
Put enough cheese on that sandwich.
Right. The Jinn appears in her apartment and smashes the 4 gems together so they become one for some reason. I guess he has all the power now that he needs because he's been collecting them along the way, stealing souls.
This is where he sucks all the souls into the gem, right?
Basically calls in the favors for everyone that he's helped, whether they want to or not.
But I feel like helped is a charitable definition of what he's been doing.
Things are all their wishes came true.
Yeah.
But the what I love is so I'm unclear about exactly how much time has passed. But when it goes to the eyeball guy, he's like in a home. So like his family, whoever was just like, you're blind, get out of here. We're done with you.
Yeah.
I was just surprised at how quickly that happened. Like this very sort of Ayn Randian, your usefulness to society has ended. So just away with you.
Sure. Unless it was just the explanation. Like some creepy guy made my eyes so shut with nothing.
That could be it. That could be enough to get you.
And then the poor woman who got turned into the mannequin who still has eyes.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a weird. It's like a real, whatchamacallit, gift of the Magi thing.
Yeah. I mean, that was some very like that's when that actually got scary, because it was this, just this Twilight Zone, like, oh man, the irony. But it's like, no, she's still alive in there.
Irony.
Nice. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, he collects all the souls from all the people who've benefited from the wishes.
Right.
Lives vastly improved.
It's time to pay him back now. Mm-hmm. At this point, it was the professor for a while until we pan over and see that the face has been ripped off of the poor woman in there after Alex arrives. And they go back and forth where he's just trying to like offer her, do you wish it was a little bit warmer in here? Do you wish you had something to drink? That's, stepping on eggshells when there's a gin around.
I love it.
Like, offering you something.
If he had gotten resurrected in the Midwest, forget about it. Like, the world's over.
Right.
Like, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unlike maybe like Japanese gift giving ceremonies where he's like, stop saying no to things.
Right. She doesn't fall for it, and the djinn reverts to Nathaniel form.
Horrifying.
Yeah, right. This is where the horror begins. Then they sort of just kind of like explain away how he's able to kill people off, and as long as it's a part of a wish and all that kind of stuff. So we get more rules. And we finally get to the point where he says, "Behold my true face, make your wishes." And I did love this. He just says, just to get in the spirit of things, I'll give you a free one. And boy, does she take advantage of it, I think.
Absolutely.
But so I don't want to get like nitpicky here, but like, how does he have control over that? How does he go like, well, no, that one doesn't count towards letting people out? Because I figured that was going to be a ruse to be like, sucker, you fell for my, wish one, get one free.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I guess when it's convenient, like much like the money and the boobs, it's when it's convenient.
So she says, blow your brains out, which he does. He's game to stay by the rules, and his head immediately grows back, and he does have this fantastic line.
That which is eternal cannot die. But if it's any consolation, sweet Alex, that hurt like hell.
So she finally says, sure, I'll play your game, and I wish to know what you are. So she appears inside the opal, and now we go kind of like full Hellraiser direction, and I'm all for this kind of stuff.
Again, being charitable, because inside the opal it looks like, I don't know, like a fun place, like a play place.
Yeah. That's basically how I pictured the warp.
Yeah, and there's like a monster dog in there.
Monster dog made of full like rubber and mechanics, which I'm a sucker for. Give me more of that. Give me more of that.
And the djinn at this point is trying to get her to wish so that she doesn't have to deal with this shit. And she also sees all the other souls that are trapped in there, right?
Right. Like people being flayed, held up by chains. So this was more of the Hellraiser stuff that I think they're going more for. And then the dog creature starts chasing her down the play place hallway.
Welcome to Discovery Zone.
Yeah, before she gets to the ball pit. She says that like she wants to be back in her apartment, but without you. That's her like, it's kind of a shitty wish like she had to do.
She's getting a little better at trying to like get around his rules.
By saying without you. But kind of sucks because that just puts her right back to where she was.
Right.
And she's down 2 wishes, which not a position you want to be in going into the final battle.
It's a serious deficit.
Not much to show for it. Not a lot of yard gainage.
Eventually, she's on her way to get to the party that Beaumont's throwing. But before she arrives, we have to have a showdown between Tony Todd playing Johnny Valentine versus the djinn.
I've dealt with your type before. Mister, you never even met my type before.
I am going through that door, and you will not stop me. Is that perfectly clear, doorman?
Door? The name is Valentine. Johnny Valentine.
That's a very cool name for a cool dude.
Yep, I'd love to believe that Tony Todd was just like, yeah, but I get to be called Johnny Valentine. I'll be a part of this, yeah.
I just want to roll up to one of those car stereo competitions with this conversation, rattling my subwoofers until my trunk blows apart. Because it's just raspy voice versus raspy voice, and it rules.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. He tricks him into, I don't know, don't you want something better?
Want to escape? He's like, don't you want to escape? And he's like, okay. And he's like, wishes granted. And he sticks him in a Harry Houdini situation.
Yeah, water tank with a straitjacket type of thing.
Which again,
I guess it's clever.
Hey, this is fun. It's fun.
Yeah. Like you said, it's right. Very loose. Like if he said, would you like to escape? then sure, that would make sense. But to like to escape, he's not escaping. Technically, he's just pounding on the glass inside like, well, technically, Jin, this isn't correct. I shouldn't be dying. Right. This is unfair.
So with 20 minutes left in the movie and there's a party scene, you're just like sitting there, rubbing your hands together going like, all right, I bet we're going to have
a couple of gins.
Yep. We're going to have that repeat of the first scene. And boy, do we. So
was it hard for you, Jim, watching the movie and hear them keep saying Jin? And you're like, did they say my name?
Constantly. I was just like, hello. Like I thought it was somebody from upstairs yelling my name.
Makes sense. It was time for treats.
Right. And I perked up every time. Alex and her sister see Beaumont and Nathaniel Jin talking. They have an interaction about parties from a long time ago. And he just says, as we mentioned before, oh God, I'd like to host a party like that, which gives the genie license to just tear everybody up. No complaints here.
A lady immediately turns into glass, exploding, ripping people's skin off and with glass shards.
That was my favorite
all kinds
part.
of crazy crap. Yeah. So much of this, one of the things that makes this great is that like people will die or something will happen and the camera will often just immediately cut back to them so we get to see them like spitting out blood and stuff. There's all these extra stuff thrown in there so you get extra oopy goopy gross crap, which thumbs up.
Which comes from the director being a special effects person.
Yeah.
So
it's not
just
enough
knows.
that you see the hit. You also see the effects of it.
The aftermath, definitely.
Which I love because when Robert Kurtzman, the director, gets he has a brief cameo of getting murdered by a piano. Is that like that head was left over from another movie that they never, it was going to be From Dusk Till Dawn and he never used it. So he's like, aha, I know just what to do here. I've got this head just
and that was a good one. The piano one was really good. That was great.
I love that one. Yeah. And I think that really helped him because they only had like a 6-week shooting schedule and they had to get the movie in theaters within 6 months of shooting, which is absolutely insane. So if you've got
they must have spent so much time on the digital effects though.
Exactly. That's what really helped. But that's the advantage of, your director like leading an effects house where they've got tons of stuff just laying around that they can't wait to use on camera.
But I like when all the statues come to life and it happens a little bit further on. But one of my favorite, this art collector who has these, this Hall of Forgotten Gods, has a sick painting of Moriarty just in a corner somewhere. Yeah. That was such a holodeck thing. It was great.
I didn't know if that was Moriarty, Jack the Ripper, or maybe like Jekyll and Hyde.
How do you know that's not the same person?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that was... I appreciated that they just kind of went for that. They were just like, screw it. We're just going to make a guy pop out of a painting. Before that, like you said, there was like a hallway that just looked like any video game sequence where you got to run down the hallway and there's like a whole bunch of suits of armor that are going to axe you on your way down.
And I do like that this Jack the Ripper also has like a Kurgan style, like Legion of Doom style knife.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Like, spikes all over it and shit. I'm like, oh wow, they have that in jolly old England town.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's how you know it's Moriarty because he always carried that.
That could be, yeah.
But and
I get why Sherlock had such a tough time with that dude.
But I also like when one of the statues like bashes a guy in the face with the mason, as you were saying, with the Ooby stuff. You see it like pull back and the face is all like contorted inward. Oh, wonderful.
All smushed in.
Yeah. And things that don't even make sense. Like one guy gets hit in the mouth with a spear, but for some reason it makes his head go all elongated and strange. Don't care. It rules.
Oh, totally.
That's perfect.
Great.
Yeah. It's great. It's filled with tons of crap like that. It reminded me of my favorite movie ever, Psycho Goreman, aka PG. Great movie, great tube-man star named Stuart Wellington. I feel like a movie like this inspired Steve when he made Psycho.
Absolutely,
filled with tons of crap.
Pack your frames full of stuff. Amongst all this chaos, he did have a line that is in that just pinhead level of great dialogue to me, where he says,
"My God, not yet human. Soon, very soon, I will be here."
I love that stuff so much.
That stuff works a lot better than when he's trying to do the like more modern idioms. Like it's weird to have a Jin say "shit hit the fan" or "if you can't beat him, burn him, baby." Which
exactly.
That was going into Freddy territory, but he's still great. I still like him.
Eventually, we run into Beaumont, who ends up spitting up a tentacle monster.
Speaking of Freddy.
Yeah. Spitting up a tentacle monster out of his mouth, kind of Poltergeist 2 style. Love
Super
this
gross and
stuff.
cool.
Yeah, that thing is gnarly as heck.
Yep. Love it. Love it. Yeah. By this point, we're in just a full special effects, like chaos storm right now. And I'm saying that with 2 thumbs up. Like it's fantastic. So,
I mean, nobody's butt turns into a face, but it's still good.
Yeah.
there's no shunting involved here.
Can't let the perfect be the enemy of the good.
Right. So the final showdown between Alex and our Jin, he's got a painting where her sister is stuck inside. He sets it on fire for a little character jab here. And I think he does say, all right, then fuck it, and then lights the painting on fire, which did make me laugh regardless. She finally gets around to what's the wish that's going to end this movie. Of course, I was thinking about that the entire time. I was like, how will she outsmart? So how does she do it?
I mean, it's basically I wish this never happened.
Right.
So yeah, she goes back to the beginning and wishes that the stevedore had not been drinking on the job. And then we cut back and it doesn't drop. He isn't drinking. We don't crush Ted Rami. Ted Rami lives, everybody.
Thank God. Yeah.
Curses.
Back in the present, the Jin gets sucked into the opal, and this was pretty, like, they put a fair amount of effort into these, like him being sucked into the opal effect, because they clearly have some kind of a puppet that's been stretched. It's
yes,
great.
yeah.
It's one of the more successful digital effects.
And I mean, that's not a bad way to wish your way to victory. Like, I wish he hadn't been drunk. Like, that's very specific, but you just kind of assume that everything will go right, and it worked for me. I didn't feel like it was like pulled out of left field, even though my bar for the writing in these kind of movies is low. But I didn't feel like talked down to with that wish, considering everything has to lead to that.
The rules for wishing in this movie have been loose.
Absolutely.
But I also like how it is like a safety video, like do's and don'ts. Because when it's him doing it, he's like, okay, I'm ready for work and I'm a good worker now because I wasn't drinking.
Exactly.
It's pretty ridiculous.
That's how I am every day in the office if I'm not drinking.
When you're not drinking.
That's why I show every bartender who works for me Wishmaster, so they know that they shouldn't be drinking on the job.
Do you have like HR videos that you show people at Hinterlands?
No. But I like the implication.
I really want to see them. Like you.
Maybe I should film some. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Just like in Wishmaster, you shouldn't be drinking on the job.
Right.
Firing someone for not watching Wishmaster.
Yes.
That's almost like when I had a barback who was working for me once, who was like, yeah, that's not my favorite movie. My favorite movie is Boondock Saints. And I'm like, fuck, I can't tip you. I cannot tip you out, guy.
You're too much of an alpha to work here.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
In this miniature painting bar. What
This
was that at Hinterlands?
Bar.
Oh, okay,
no, this
I was
was at a
gonna
different
say.
bar.
Oh man, I got very excited by that. That's a thing that exists? Like a miniature painting bar?
Miniature painting bar?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, occasionally people paint miniatures at my bar, but yeah, Hinterlands is a pretty nerdy bar.
Was that reductive of your bar? I didn't mean to do that.
I don't know. I mean, people can be a lot of things. Bars can be a lot of things. Like,
Totally.
I'm both a podcaster, a bar owner, a hunk, a miniature enthusiast.
You've been flexing this entire cast.
Exactly.
With a miniature on each bicep.
Oh man,
Painting them like
do
that.
not tempt me.
Yes. Yeah, everything wraps up just fine with the Jin inside the opal at the end. Oh, but before we get to that, somehow Alex and Josh are about ready to go on a date, and she's just like all for this guy now.
So do you think she retained the knowledge?
Right.
That was
That's
my
always the
question.
question.
Like, right? Because she is treating him like she missed him.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, I am ready for that date. Why don't we do, like, she's like all about it. And he is behaving way weirder than I expected.
Right.
Exactly.
Where he seems shocked and put off by the fact that she is showing interest. And he's like, I don't know if I want to go to a dinner and a movie. How about a hot dog and a baseball game? And I'm like, you want to eat a hot dog before kissing this girl?
Yeah.
Right. Extra onion. Yeah. God. Yeah. Then we zoom in on the Jin on his throne inside of the Opal. He's trapped once again, and the movie ends with a cackle, which I'm always happy to hear the demon cackle, much like Trickster and Brain Scan. The movie ends with a cackle. Yeah.
Much like other good movies.
Like Brain Scan.
Yeah, like Brain Scan. So before we wrap up, let's honor our dead real quick. Unnamed Persian citizen, played by unknown, turned to stone by jinn. Persian citizen, played by unknown, youth stolen by jinn. Unnamed female Persian citizen, face scratched off by jinn. Female Persian citizen, played by unknown, given disease by jinn. Unnamed male Persian citizen, played by unknown, turned into a tree. Unnamed Persian citizen, played by unknown, youth stolen by jinn. Persian citizen, played by unknown, stomach turned into a monster. Female Persian citizen, played by unknown, arm eaten by stomach monster. Persian citizen, played by unknown, decapitated. Persian citizen, played by unknown, youth stolen by jinn. Persian citizen, played by Jake McKinnon, skeleton rips out of body. Persian citizen, played by unknown, mauled by skeleton monster. Persian citizen, played by unknown, youth stolen by jinn. Persian citizen, played by Greg Gunk, turned into a snake. Beaumont's assistant, played by Ted Rami, crushed under falling crate. Josh Aikman, played by Tony Crane, youth stolen by jinn. Pharmacist, played by Reggie Bannister, accelerated cancer. Ariella, played by Gretchen Palmer, turned into mannequin. Uniformed cop, played by Joe Sevzia, shot by criminal. Unnamed cop, played by unknown, also shot by criminal. Unnamed cop, played by unknown, jaw ripped off by criminal. Criminal, played by unknown, shot to death by police. Merritt's guard, played by Kane Hodder, turned into glass and shattered by jinn. Mrs. Merritt, played by Betty McGuire, exploded on plane. Lieutenant Nathanson, played by Rico Ross, youth stolen by jinn. Male prisoner, played by unknown, youth stolen by jinn. Morgue worker, played by unknown, youth stolen by jinn. Wendy Darleth, played by Jenny O'Hare, face ripped off by jinn. Johnny Valentine, played by Tony Todd, drowned in Houdini-like water cell. Unnamed woman, played by Cindy Pass, turned into glass and shattered. Unnamed man, played by unknown, face sliced up by flying glass. Unnamed man, played by unknown, face destroyed by stone snake. Unnamed man, played by Robert Kurtzman, decapitated by piano chords. Unnamed man, played by unknown, burned to death by exploding fireplace. Unnamed man, played by unknown, throat hollowed out by stone worms. Raymond Beaumont, played by Robert Englund, succumbed to tentacled demon creature. Party guard, played by Howard Berger, slashed by stone statue. Party guard, played by Robert Jacob, skull crushed by statue with mace. Party guard, played by unknown, stabbed by statue with sword. Party guard, played by unknown, eviscerated by Jack the Ripper. Okay, that was a lot of dead people.
A whole bunch.
Yeah.
Piles.
I would say 2 gigantic thumbs up for Wishmaster, especially if you like goopy special effects films that they don't really make anymore. This sucker is, 25 years old? And it feels like that sometimes, but in the best possible way. I loved it.
Yeah, this is great.
I'm a little nervous going forward just because it does seem like everything now is going to be like every movie's going to be, we'll figure out how to get Mr. Mitzel-Plitzik to say his name backwards. And how much of the same is that going to be? And is that going to be a problem? I don't know. We'll see. But if they just keep doing this kind of stuff, I'm all for it.
If I recall, they just keep making the lore more complicated.
Perfect. That always works. That always works.
Yeah.
And I think they also I feel like they introduced like a weird love interest.
Okay.
But you'll get there.
Okay.
You'll get there.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll get there too. They're all on Tubi. I can watch them whenever the fuck I want.
I was going to say, I was so happy to find them on Tubi. And this was actually the first movie that I've watched on Tubi. I was like, do I buy the box set of Blu-rays of Wishmaster? Because I kind of feel like I probably won't be revisiting the sequels very often. Well, then I found it was on Tubi and I was pretty much set. So,
another Tubi treasure.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot of them.
Well, I guess that's going to do it. Stuart, thanks for joining us. Is there anything you want to plug before we go out?
Oh, man. Well, if you haven't checked out the Flophouse podcast, please do. We are a comedy show about bad movies. And if you're in the Brooklyn area, you could come check out either of my bars, Hinterlands Bar or Minnie's Bar. We're open noon to 4 all the time. So 4 a.m. So come out and see us.
Check out the Flophouse.
Thanks so
much. If you haven't heard it. Yeah, it's fantastic. So, and if you're a New York listener, go to Hinterlands. I go there every time I'm there. But that's going to do it for this week. If you tune in next week, we'll be moving along to Wishmaster Part 2. And John, I guess, would you say that after watching Wishmaster, would you want to watch another Wishmaster movie?
Yes, I would.
Do you what? Oh, yes. Okay. All right. The wish is there.
Yeah, the Jim over here is rubbing his hands together.
Yes. My wish. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see you guys next week. Check us out on Instagram at This May Hurt a Bit Pod and Twitter at This May Hurt a Bit. And we will see you next week for Wishmaster Part 2.
Good night.
Good night. This has been a Two Penguins media production. It was produced by James Strayer and edited by John C. Myers. Logo by Ethan Kimberling and music by Michael Arthur Holloway, who you can find on Bandcamp. Follow us on Instagram at This May Hurt a Bit Pod and on Twitter at Hurt a Bit. Email us at thismayhurtabit@gmail.com. And if you are so inclined, rate and review us on your favorite podcast app, and we'll see you next time.